The year is 1861. A young nation, barely a century old, finds itself teetering on the brink of collapse. The United States, a beacon of hope and democracy, is now facing its greatest internal challenge. The issue? A deep and festering wound that had been slowly poisoning the nation from within: slavery. This institution had been a source of contention since the country's inception, creating a divide that seemed impossible to bridge. But the Civil War, a conflict that would claim the lives of over 600,000 Americans, was about far more than just slavery. It was a struggle for the very identity of the nation, a battle over the principles of freedom and equality. It was a clash of ideologies, a battle for economic and political dominance, and a testament to the enduring tensions between the North and the South. The industrial North and the agrarian South had developed along very different lines, each with its own vision for the future of the country. This is the story of the Civil War, a story of brother fighting against brother, of families torn apart, and of a nation struggling to define its very soul. The war would test the limits of human endurance and the strength of the American spirit. It is a story of courage and sacrifice, of brutality and loss, and of the enduring legacy of a conflict that continues to shape America to this day. The scars of the Civil War are still visible, not just in the landscape, but in the very fabric of American society. The lessons learned and the sacrifices made during this tumultuous period continue to resonate, reminding us of the cost of division and the value of unity. At the heart of the divide between North and South lay a stark economic reality. The North, humming with the energy of the Industrial Revolution, was a land of factories, mills, and burgeoning cities. Its economy thrived on manufacturing, trade, and the labor of free men. The South, in contrast, clung fiercely to an agrarian way of life. Vast plantations, worked by enslaved Africans, produced the cotton, tobacco, and rice that fueled the South's economy. This economic disparity fostered vastly different views on tariffs, infrastructure, and the role of the federal government, creating a breeding ground for resentment and distrust. The political landscape leading up to the Civil War was a battleground for supremacy between the federal government and individual states. This period was marked by intense and often bitter disputes that would shape the future of the nation. The North, with its growing industrial might, favored a strong central government capable of enacting policies that benefited its burgeoning industries. Northern leaders believed that a unified national policy was essential for economic growth and stability, particularly in areas like infrastructure, banking, and trade. The South, fiercely protective of its autonomy and fearful of federal interference in its peculiar institution of slavery, clung tightly to the doctrine of states' rights. Southern politicians argued that each state should have the authority to govern itself without undue influence from a distant federal government, especially on issues like slavery, which they considered vital to their economic and social order. This ideological clash played out in heated debates over tariffs, westward expansion, and the delicate balance of power in Congress. Tariffs, which protected northern industries but hurt southern economies, were a constant source of friction. The question of whether new territories should be free or slave states further exacerbated tensions. Each new state admitted to the Union carried the potential to tip the scales, raising the stakes of the political game and fueling the flames of sectionalism. The admission of states like California and Kansas became flashpoints, with both sides vying for control and influence, knowing that the balance of power in the Senate and the future of the nation hung in the balance. Beyond the economic and political differences, a chasm of social and cultural values separated North and South. The North, a melting pot of immigrants and social reformers, witnessed the rise of the abolitionist movement, a moral crusade against the institution of slavery. The South, deeply invested in its traditional way of life, viewed slavery not as a moral abomination, but as an economic necessity and a cornerstone of its social order. This fundamental difference in values fueled moral outrage in the North and hardened resolve in the South, pushing the two sides further apart. Section 5. The Spark That Ignited the Blaze. Fort Sumter. On April 12, 1861, the simmering tensions between North and South finally boiled over. Confederate forces, determined to assert their sovereignty, opened fire on Fort Sumter, a federal garrison in Charleston Harbor, South Carolina. The bombardment, though lasting only 34 hours, reverberated across the nation, signaling the start of the bloodiest conflict in American history. The attack on Fort Sumter extinguished any remaining hope for a peaceful resolution and galvanized both sides for war. Section 6. The Second Confiscation Act, turning the tide. As the war raged on, its character began to shift. What began as a fight to preserve the Union gradually evolved into a moral crusade against slavery. The turning point came in July 1862 with the passage of the Second Confiscation Act. This landmark legislation declared that all slaves of individuals engaged in rebellion against the United States would be forever free if they came under Union control. The act, a bold stroke by President Lincoln, transformed the war from a struggle for reunification into a fight for human freedom. Section 7. Beyond the battlefield, the Civil War's impact. The Civil War's impact extended far beyond the battlefields where hundreds of thousands perished. It spurred technological advancements, from the mass production of weaponry to the expansion of railroads and telegraphs. It tested the limits of presidential power and forever altered the balance between federal and state authority. But perhaps most profoundly, it forced America to confront its original sin of slavery. The war's end ushered in a new era of freedom and civil rights, though the struggle for equality would continue for generations to come. Section 8. The Legacy of a Nation Forged in Fire. The Civil War left an indelible mark on the American psyche. It forged a new national identity, one tested by fire and tempered by the blood of its citizens. It enshrined the ideals of liberty and equality in the nation's soul, even as it exposed the deep-seated prejudices and inequalities that continued to plague American society. The war's legacy can be seen in the countless monuments and memorials that dot the American landscape, in the stories passed down through generations, and in the ongoing struggle for civil rights and social justice. Section 9. Unhealed Wounds and Enduring Questions. Even after 150 years, the Civil War continues to spark debate and controversy. The meaning of the conflict, its causes, and its consequences remain subjects of scholarly inquiry and popular fascination. The Confederate flag, a symbol of Southern pride for some and a reminder of racism and oppression for others, continues to ignite passions and fuel division. The Civil War reminds us that the past is never truly past, that the wounds of history can linger for generations, and that the struggle for a more perfect union is an ongoing process. Section 10. Conclusion. The Civil War's enduring significance. The Civil War stands as a pivotal chapter in American history, a testament to the enduring power of ideas and the devastating consequences of their clash. It was a war that pitted brother against brother, neighbor against neighbor, and ultimately reshaped the nation's identity. The conflict was not just a series of battles, but a profound struggle over the very principles that would define the United States. It was a conflict born of deep-seated economic, political, and social divisions, a conflict that tested the very fabric of the nation and forever altered its course. The war's origins lay in the stark differences between the industrial North and the agrarian South, differences that were exacerbated by the contentious issue of slavery. Political debates raged, and social unrest simmered, as the nation grappled with its identity and future. As we grapple with the complexities of our present and navigate the uncertainties of the future, the lessons of the Civil War remain as relevant as ever. The importance of dialogue and compromise, the fragility of unity, and the enduring need to strive for a more just and equitable society. The echoes of the past remind us that our progress is fragile and must be continually nurtured. The Civil War's legacy is a powerful reminder of the cost of division and the enduring strength found in unity and understanding. It calls on us to reflect on our history, learn from it, and work towards a future where justice and equality are not just ideals, but realities.